I was late, again. My editor's voice still rang in my head. Emma, you have 10 minutes to get that interview or don't bother coming back. So of course, I was running in heels, hair half up, clutching my recorder like my life depended on it. The city lights blurred as I crossed the street toward the most exclusive hotel in downtown Chicago, the Meridian Grand. I wasn't supposed to be here. I wasn't supposed to be doing this story. But when the city's richest families gathered for a charity gala, you either got the scoop, or someone else did. The lobby was all glass, gold, and quiet jazz. People in tuxedos and gowns glided past like they belonged to another world. I forced a smile, trying to look like I belonged too. Then I saw him. Tall, dark suit, a presence that silenced the air around him. He stood near the bar, talking quietly with two men in black. The kind of men who didn't blend in, they watched everything. I welcome you, my beautiful family and friends. Please click subscribe. Do well to like this video and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Your support helps us bring more thrilling stories, and trust me, you won't want to miss them. Now, let's continue. I didn't know his name yet. Didn't know what he was capable of. Didn't know I'd just spotted Luca Morti, the man every police report whispered about and every rival feared. Back then, he was just a stranger with sharp eyes and a stillness that made my heart stutter. And I was about to walk right into his life. I was halfway to the bar when I froze. Of course, because life loves humiliating me. There he was, Ethan, my ex-boyfriend, the same one who dumped me 3 months ago for someone more ambitious. He was with his new girlfriend, a social media model with perfect hair and an even more perfect fake laugh. They saw me before I could turn away. Emma, Ethan said, surprised, smiling like we were still friends. Wow, long time. You came to this event too. I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. My cheap press pass suddenly felt like a scarlet letter. His girlfriend smiled sweetly. Oh, you're that journalist, right? I nodded, trying to keep my dignity. Yes, covering the event. The words tasted bitter. Ethan's arm slid around her waist. I caught the look in his eyes, pity. I hated that look. Before I could stop myself, the words slipped out. Actually, I'm here with someone. His girlfriend tilted her head. Oh, who? My mouth went dry. My brain screamed, say anything. And then I turned. The first man my eyes landed on was the dark figure by the bar. Luca. Cold, unreadable, watching me with mild curiosity, like he already knew I was lying. I lifted my chin, heart racing. Him. Their eyes followed my gaze. And that's when my mistake began. My pulse thundered as I walked toward the man at the bar. Each step felt like a dare. The lights seemed dimmer around him, like even the chandelier feared getting too close. He turned before I could speak, as if he'd felt me coming. His eyes met mine. Dark, calm, sharp enough to read through me. I swallowed hard. Hi, He said nothing, just waited. I caught my reflection in the glass behind him, nervous smile, messy curls, fake confidence. Listen, I whispered, leaning closer. I need your help. Just pretend to be my boyfriend for 5 minutes. A pause. Then one brow lifted. Excuse me. I know it sounds insane, but my ex is here, and I just told him I'm with someone. I forced a laugh, trying to sound casual. So, congratulations, you're now my boyfriend. For a moment, he just stared. Then the corner of his mouth curved slightly. Not a smile, more like curiosity brushing against danger. He took his drink, turned to face Ethan and his girlfriend, and quietly said, Then come here, cara mia. Before I could react, his hand slid around my waist. Firm, possessive, my breath caught. He looked down at me, voice low and smooth. If we're going to play, we should make it convincing. My heart nearly stopped. He guided me closer, the scent of expensive cologne and something darker filling my head. We faced Ethan together. Ethan's eyes widened. Oh, hi, didn't know you two were together. Luca's tone was effortless. She didn't tell you. Ethan blinked. No, She's full of surprises, Luca said. Then he looked down at me, his hand still firm on my waist. Aren't you, sweetheart? I nodded mutely, caught between panic and something dangerously like fascination. Ethan cleared his throat, forcing a laugh. Well, good for you, Emma. You deserve someone. Luca's eyes never left him. She does. There was something in his voice, a quiet power that made Ethan flinch slightly. Even the air seemed to shift around him. I didn't know it then, but everyone in that room who recognized Luca Morty was already watching us in disbelief. Because no one, absolutely no one, spoke to him like that and walked away unchanged. Ethan and his girlfriend drifted away, whispering. My knees were still weak. I turned to Luca, words tripping over themselves. I'm sorry, that was insane, thank you for. He set his drink down slowly. You use strangers often. What? No, I just panicked. His gaze lingered on me, studying my face as if memorizing it. You're not good at lying, he said quietly. I wasn't lying about needing help, I mumbled. That almost smile again. No, but you were lying about being calm. I blinked. You could tell. He leaned a little closer. You're shaking. I looked down. He was right. My fingers trembled against my notepad. Embarrassed, I tried to pull away. Okay, this is weird. Thanks for saving me from eternal humiliation. I'll just... Wait. The word froze me. His tone wasn't loud, but it carried authority, the kind that made you listen. He slipped a card onto the bar. You owe me a drink. Call this number when you want to return the favor. Then he walked away, smooth, silent, disappearing into the crowd like smoke. I stood there, staring at the black card with one word embossed in silver. Luca. No last name, no title, just that. And somehow, I knew this wasn't over. By the next morning, I had almost convinced myself it was nothing. A stupid, desperate moment, a favor from a stranger. I even threw his black card into my bag and promised myself never to look at it again. But the universe, apparently, had other plans. When I got to the newsroom, chaos was waiting. Phones ringing, papers flying, and my editor packing like a drill sergeant. Emma, he barked when he saw me. Where were you last night? You were supposed to cover the Meridian Gala. I did, I said, catching my breath. Got a few quotes, took pictures. He waved that off. Forget the charity nonsense. We've got something bigger. One of the city's biggest private investors made a rare appearance at that event. No photos, no interviews. I want you to find him. I blinked. Who? He looked down at his tablet. Name, Luca Morty. My stomach dropped. He's reclusive, my editor went on. Owns half the construction firms on the east side. No one knows much about him. I want an exclusive piece, business profile, clean and sharp. He's probably mobbed up, but don't write that unless you've got proof. I forced a laugh that sounded like static. So, just walk up to this mysterious billionaire and ask for an interview. Exactly. You've got a week. Use your charm. Charm. Right, the same charm that made me fake date a stranger. When I got back to my desk, I pulled the black card from my bag. It gleamed under the light, almost mocking me. Luca. Just that. No company name, no email, just a single phone number printed in faint silver ink. I stared at it for a full minute before whispering to myself. You've got to be kidding me. I held my phone for a long time before pressing the number. It rang once, twice. Then silence. Who gave you this number? His voice, low, smooth, dangerous. I froze. You did last night. I'm the girl from the gala, the one who pretended I was her boyfriend, he said, finishing the sentence for me. I bit my lip. Yes, that one. There was a pause, then the faint sound of a quiet chuckle. It wasn't warm, it was amused, like he was entertained by my nerves. What do you want, cara mia? My heart jumped at the nickname. An interview. An interview. I'm a journalist, I said quickly. My editor wants a feature on you. It's not gossip, just business related. I thought maybe. You thought I'd say yes, because you used me as a shield. The words stung. I thought you might appreciate honesty. Another pause. Then unexpectedly he said, tomorrow, noon, Meridian Tower, top floor. Wait, you're agreeing. I'm curious, he said simply. You have 10 minutes, don't waste them. The line clicked off. I stared at my phone, breathless. What had I just got myself into? The next day, I wore my best blazer and worse nerves. The Meridian Tower was intimidating. All glass, steel, and security guards who looked like they could bench press cars. The receptionist took one look at the card in my hand and pressed a button without a word. Top floor, he's expecting you. When the elevator doors opened, I stepped into another world. The office was enormous, filled with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. And there he was sitting behind a dark oak desk, black suit perfectly pressed, expression unreadable. Luca Morty. He didn't stand up, didn't smile, just gestured toward the chair opposite him. You're late. I glanced at the clock. It's 12 on the dot. He leaned back. You should have come earlier. People who value time always do. I swallowed, duly noted. His eyes held mine, quiet and probing. You came for an interview, ask. I fumbled with my recorder. Okay, what motivated your investments in the East Side redevelopment? Money, he said flatly. I blinked. That's honest. He tilted his head slightly. You want me to lie? No, just, most businessmen say something about helping the community. He smirked faintly. And yet, I'm not most businessmen. His tone was calm, but there was something in it, a warning, maybe a challenge. I pressed record, trying to ignore how heavy the silence felt between us. So, I began carefully, you started as a private investor. No one knows much about your early career. Can you tell me how you got started? His gaze didn't waver. No. I blinked. No. He folded his hands, expression calm. You're persistent, I'll give you that, but you should learn which questions not to ask. I'm a journalist, I said, forcing a nervous laugh. It's my job to ask questions. Then it's mine to decide which ones deserve answers. I bit the inside of my cheek. That's fair. He studied me for a long second, then leaned forward. Why are you really here, Emma? My breath caught. I told you, it's just an interview. He shook his head slightly. You could have written about anyone in that room last night, but you chose me. I hesitated. You were interesting. Interesting, he repeated, voice low. That's not usually the word people use. What do they call you? He smiled faintly. Dangerous. The air between us thickened. My throat tightened. Should I be scared then? He stood and walked toward the window, the city skyline glowing behind him. Only if you plan to lie to me again. I didn't lie, I whispered. He turned. You said you needed me for 5 minutes, but you're still here. The elevator dinged softly behind me, a reminder that I could leave, that I should leave. But I didn't move. Something about him was magnetic, not just his looks or power, it was the way he carried silence like a weapon, the way he watched me like he saw too much. Finally, he spoke again, quieter this time. You should go before you forget why you came. I turned off my recorder. You're not an easy man to forget. He smiled, this time fully, briefly, beautifully. Neither are you, cara mia. By the time I reached the lobby, my legs felt weak. The interview had been 10 minutes of tension, half-truths, and unspoken danger. But there was something else too, a pull I couldn't explain. Outside, the afternoon light hit the street in golden waves. I reached for my phone to call a cab and froze. A black SUV was parked across the street, tinted windows, engine running. It had been there when I arrived. For a moment, I thought I was imagining things. Then the window rolled down halfway, and I saw one of the men from last night's gala inside. He looked straight at me, then at his phone. My heart kicked against my ribs. Before I could react, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered, "Hello." "Don't look back," Luca's voice said calmly. "Get in the car behind you." "What? How do you even?" "Now." I turned. Another SUV had pulled up quietly to the curb, driver's door already open. "Are you serious?" I whispered. "Emma," his voice dropped lower, "you wanted a story. This is what stories cost." I hesitated only a second before sliding into the car. The driver shut the door and pulled into traffic. "Where are we going?" I asked. "Somewhere safe," he said. My mind raced. Safe from what? He didn't answer. We drove for about 20 minutes through narrow side streets until the city lights faded behind us. Finally, the car stopped in front of a sleek, glass-walled building overlooking the river. The driver opened my door. Luca was already waiting at the entrance. "How?" I started, stepping out. He raised a hand. "Not here." We walked through the quiet lobby and into a private elevator. I watched the numbers rise as he stood beside me, calm as ever. When the doors opened, we entered what looked like a penthouse, minimalist, clean, filled with dark furniture and floor-to-ceiling windows. I turned to face him. "What is going on?" He poured a drink, motioned for me to sit. "Someone followed you from the tower." "Followed me?" My voice cracked. "Why?" "Because you walked into a story that's bigger than your paper, Bella." I stared at him. "You mean your story?" He didn't deny it. My pulse raced. "Are you in danger?" He glanced up. "Always." For a moment, the silence stretched too far. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to run. The other part wanted to understand. Finally, I whispered, "Why help me?" He looked at me for a long second before saying quietly, "Because I don't like watching brave people die for being curious." The air between us changed again, darker, heavier, charged with something unspoken. And though I knew I should be terrified, I was. I was drawn to him. Hopelessly. He handed me a glass of water and gestured toward the dining area. It wasn't fancy, just a long table with 2 plates, candles, and pasta that smelled too good to come from any restaurant. "You cook?" I asked, trying to fill the silence. "Sometimes," he said simply. "It keeps me patient." Patient. He sat across from me, eyes flicking to mine. "My business doesn't allow much of that." I picked up my fork, pretending to focus on the food. "What kind of business is that, exactly?" He didn't answer immediately, just leaned back, studying me. "You really want to know?" I nodded slowly. He poured himself a glass of red wine, took a sip, and said quietly, "The kind that builds and destroys in the same breath." My fork paused midair. "That's cryptic." He smiled faintly. "Good, you're still smart enough to stay nervous." "I'm not nervous," I lied. "You're trembling," he said again, almost gently this time. I exhaled. "Okay, maybe a little." His expression softened for the first time that night. "I didn't bring you here to scare you, cara mia, but there are people who watch everything I do, and after last night, they've seen you too." I froze. "What do you mean, seen me?" He pushed his plate aside, eyes darkening. "You walked into my world even if you didn't mean to." For a second, I couldn't breathe. "Are you saying I'm in danger?" "Not if you stay close to me." There it was, quiet, steady, and possessive. Not a threat, a promise. Something fluttered painfully in my chest. "You can't just say things like that." He looked at me like he already owned the air I breathed. "I don't say what I don't mean." Silence filled the room again, thicker this time. My heart was beating too fast, but I didn't look away. Finally, I whispered, "You don't even know me." He leaned forward, elbows on the table, eyes never leaving mine. "I know enough." The candlelight reflected off his glass. The shadows danced across his face, and I couldn't tell if he was warning me or inviting me closer. Maybe both. I stood up, needing distance. "I should go." He didn't move. "It's late." "I'll call a cab." "No," his tone was calm but absolute. "I'll take you home." I shook my head. "You can't just order me around." His eyes softened barely. I'm not ordering you, I'm protecting you. Something in the way he said it made my throat tighten. I turned toward the window, trying to hide how flustered I was. I'm not someone who needs saving. Behind me, I heard the slow sound of his footsteps. Then his reflection appeared in the glass, right behind mine. Everyone needs saving from something, he murmured. I turned, and suddenly we were too close, inches apart. His scent was all sharp smoke and cologne, his gaze pulling me in like gravity. Luca, I whispered. Yes. I didn't even know what I wanted to say, only that my chest hurt from holding my breath. His hand came up, brushing a loose strand of hair from my face. The touch was barely there, but it felt like a promise and a warning at once. For a second, everything stopped. And then he stepped back, his voice steady again. I'll drive you. I nodded silently. The ride home was quiet, too quiet. When we stopped in front of my apartment, I reached for the door handle, but he caught my wrist gently. Emma. Yeah. His eyes held mine, dark, unreadable. Don't walk alone at night for a while. If anything feels wrong, you call me. You think I'm being followed again? I don't think, he said. I know. I swallowed. How? He let go of my wrist slowly. Because in my world, curiosity has a price. I didn't sleep that night. The next few days blurred together, editing deadlines, phone calls, restless nights. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw him. His face, his voice, that quiet intensity that left no room for lies. By the third day, I stopped pretending I wasn't checking my phone for his name. It came in the middle of the night. Unknown number, look outside. I sat up, heart pounding, pulled the curtain aside, nothing but streetlights. Then I saw it, a car parked across from my building. The same black SUV. Seconds later, another message. Don't panic, I've already handled it. I stared at the words. Handled it? What did that even mean? Before I could reply, my phone buzzed again. Go back to sleep, journalist. I'll see you soon. I set the phone down, heart racing. Maybe I should have been terrified. But the truth, I was in deeper than I wanted to admit. The knock came early, too early for a Saturday. 3 firm taps, not frantic, not polite, certain. I hesitated before opening the door. When I did, Luca was standing there in a dark coat, a faint line of fatigue under his eyes. You shouldn't open your door without asking who it is, he said quietly. You texted Look outside last night. You can't be surprised I recognized the same knock. His mouth curved just slightly. Fair point. I stepped aside. Coffee. He entered without waiting for permission, scanning the small apartment like he was memorizing every corner. It made my space feel smaller, but somehow safer too. I handed him a mug. You usually check on all your fake girlfriends after midnight stakeouts. He accepted the coffee, gaze unreadable. Only the ones who attract attention. So I'm a security problem. More like a headline waiting to happen, he said. Someone saw us together again. I wanted to be sure you were safe. I sat opposite him on the couch. And are you? He didn't answer right away. Safety is relative, Emma. You're safer than you were 3 days ago. I studied him. And you? He looked up, the corner of his jaw tightening. I don't get that luxury. The silence that followed felt heavy enough to break. Finally, I asked, why tell me any of this? You could have ignored me after that gala. He looked at me for a long moment. Because you looked me in the eyes when everyone else looks away. It was the simplest thing he could have said, and the most dangerous. Something shifted between us then. Less curiosity, more connection, and a thin line of something like trust. We talked for hours, about everything that wasn't supposed to matter. He asked about journalism, the stories I wanted to tell, the mistakes I'd made. I asked about travel, childhood, favorite cities. He never gave full answers, but what he did share felt real. When he finally stood to leave, I walked him to the door. Luca, I said, if people keep following me because of you, I can't do my job. He met my eyes. Then don't do it alone. I don't work with bodyguards. Then think of it as an insurance policy, he replied. One you don't have to pay for. You don't give people choices, do you? His smile was quiet. I give them better options. He turned to go, then paused. Stay off the east side for a while, something moving there tonight. Business. He didn't answer, but the look in his eyes said enough. And then he was gone. By Monday, the newsroom was buzzing about a mysterious explosion at a warehouse on the east side. No injuries, no suspects, just whispers. My editor dropped a file on my desk. You still have that contact, right? Morty. I froze. Why? Word is, one of his companies owned that property. Find out what he's hiding. I forced a nod, heart pounding. That night I called him. The line rang once. Emma, you already know why I'm calling. I told you to stay off that side of town. I did, but my paper didn't. He exhaled softly, the sound sharp against the phone speaker. Then write about something else. I can't. A pause, then quieter. You're too honest for this world. Maybe, I said, but it's mine. Another silence. Then he said something that both scared and steadied me. Then I'll make sure it stays that way. The call ended, but the promise hung in the air. 2 days later, I found myself tailing a lead down the same street Luca told me to avoid. Old habits and curiosity die hard. The warehouse was gone, replaced by scorched concrete and police tape. A detective I knew from previous stories waved me off. Emma, you shouldn't be here. Just covering the aftermath, Mason, off record. He sighed. Then cover it from across the street. This isn't just an accident. Too clean, too fast. I jotted a note. Meaning. He lowered his voice. Meaning, someone powerful wanted this erased before it started. That was enough to make me step back. I turned to leave and saw the black car parked at the corner. Same one that had followed me before. The window rolled down an inch. Miss Hill, a man said, you're making people nervous. I froze. Who are you? Someone who likes his peace. Go home. The car pulled away before I could get another word out. I didn't realize my hands were shaking until I dropped my pen. That night, I didn't call Luca. I didn't want to sound scared. But when I entered my apartment, the lights were already on. He was there, standing by the window, sleeves rolled up, phone in hand. Calm, silent. My heart jumped. What are you doing here? He turned slowly, checking on a reporter who doesn't listen. You broke in. I have a key. I blinked. Since when? Since you gave me your spare that night you fainted at the gala, he said smoothly. I swallowed. You kept it. His eyes softened, but his tone stayed firm. I don't like surprises, especially when you're involved. He stepped closer. Who spoke to you today? A man in a black car said I was making people nervous. He exhaled sharply. Then they've noticed you. My voice dropped. Who's they? He looked away, jaw tightening. People who don't like questions. He moved toward the door like he couldn't stay still, frustration radiating off him. You should pack a bag, he said. I'm not running because someone made vague threats. He stopped, eyes sharp. It wasn't vague. I crossed my arms. I'm not one of your men, Luca. You can't order me. For a long second, silence filled the room. Then softer. I'm not trying to control you. I'm trying to keep you breathing. The sincerity in his voice knocked the wind out of me. I looked at him, at the man who'd started as a stranger and now felt like a storm circling my life. I can't just leave my work. Then let me handle the people who think you're a problem. That's not how journalism works. He smiled faintly. Then maybe you should try my way just once. And then, in a moment that felt more dangerous than any threat, he lifted a hand and brushed his thumb along my jaw, slow, protective, possessive. Next time someone scares you, he murmured, you call me, not the police, me. His words weren't a request. They were a vow. I didn't sleep that night. Every shadow felt heavier. Every noise made me think of that black car. When morning came, I went to work like nothing had changed, except everything had. By noon, an envelope arrived on my desk. No name, no return address. Inside, a photo of me standing next to Luca at the gala. A red circle drawn around him, and one word written across the bottom. Careful. I stared at it, heart pounding. Before I could decide what to do, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. You shouldn't have gone back there. I typed back instantly. Who is this? No answer. Then another message. You think he's your hero? Ask what happened to the last reporter who followed him. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. That's when I realized something I hadn't wanted to admit. The danger wasn't just around Luca. It was Luca. I didn't wait until night. By evening, I was standing outside his penthouse, heart pounding like I was about to break a rule I couldn't take back. The elevator opened to marble floors and silence. His door wasn't locked. He was inside on the phone, his tone calm and low. No, I said, clean up, not cover up. There's a difference. I stepped in before he could finish. You really don't care who hears you, do you? He looked up, then ended the call. Emma. Don't, I snapped. Don't say my name like that. I got a message today, a warning. Someone's watching me because of you. His jaw clenched. You shouldn't have gone to the warehouse. Stop saying what I shouldn't do. I'm a journalist. I follow stories. That's who I am. And I told you the truth would get you killed. The words hit like cold water. So it's true, I said quietly. You're part of it. He didn't answer right away. His silence was louder than a confession. I took a shaky breath. What are you hiding, Luca? He stepped closer, his eyes darker now, but not angry, almost tired. You want honesty? Fine. He gestured to the massive glass window overlooking the city. Every building you see from here belongs to someone who thinks they're in control. But half of them pay men like me to make their problems disappear. That's who I am, Emma. The man who cleans up messes no one else can touch. My stomach turned. That's not business, Luca, that's crime. He gave a small, bitter smile. Depends on who's paying. For a long moment, I couldn't speak. All the little signs, the guards, the cars, the way people moved when he entered a room, it all fit. You used me, I said finally. His eyes flashed. No, I protected you. By lying to me. By keeping you alive. The room went quiet again, filled only with the sound of the city below. Finally, I whispered, Who are you really? He stepped forward until there was barely space between us. His voice dropped low, almost gentle. My name is Luca Morty, and I lead the family everyone pretends doesn't exist. My breath caught. He didn't look proud. He looked like a man who'd carried that truth too long. You shouldn't have told me, I whispered. I didn't plan to, he said softly. But you don't run. You look me in the eyes even when you're scared. Maybe I'm too stubborn to run. He smiled faintly. Or maybe you were meant to find out. The air between us felt heavier than the skyline behind him. You think I can just forget this? I said, my voice trembling. I don't expect you to. So what now? You silence me too. He frowned. You really think I'd hurt you? I don't know what to think anymore. He reached out, then hesitated, his hand hovering inches from mine. You were the one who asked me to be your boyfriend, remember? I never planned for this either. That was supposed to be a lie, I whispered. His eyes softened. It still could be if you walk away now. I stared at him, and if I do. He exhaled slowly, like every word cost him something. Then you stay in a world that doesn't forgive mistakes, including mine. Something in his tone broke through the fear, something raw and human. I don't want to be part of your world, I said quietly. Too late, he murmured. The moment you walked into that gala, you became part of mine. When I left his penthouse that night, the city felt different, colder, sharper. I told myself I'd write the story, expose everything. But my heart wouldn't let me. Because now it wasn't just a story, It was him. And even knowing what he was, part of me still wanted to believe the man who brought me coffee, who worried when I was scared, wasn't the same man the city whispered about. I didn't sleep. I just kept hearing his voice. Then don't do it alone. I realized something awful. I wasn't afraid of Luca Morty. I was afraid what I'd already started feeling for him. By the next morning, my inbox was full anonymous tips, half threats, half bargains. People suddenly wanted to talk, as if they sensed I was close to something big. At the newsroom, my editor waved me into his office. He had the photo from the envelope pinned to his board. "Emma, what's this about?" I hesitated. A lead I was following, it might be connected to Morty Holdings. "Morty," his brows lifted. "You've got a source there." "Not exactly." "Then make one. I want something by the weekend. A name like that could win awards." "Sir, it's not safe." He leaned forward. "Journalism isn't safe. You wanted real work, this is it." I left his office with my stomach in knots. I'd asked for big stories before, but this one was too big. Too close. That evening, I typed half a headline. "The man behind the mask, who really owns the city's shadows." Then I stopped. My hands wouldn't move. Because the mask wasn't a stranger. It was Luca. And somehow, I couldn't destroy him, not yet. The next day, a small black envelope slid under my apartment door. Inside, another photo. This time, it was of my editor at a restaurant, laughing with his wife. Written across it in thin ink. "Stay silent, or someone else pays." My pulse spiked. I called Luca immediately. He picked up on the first ring. "Emma." "They know about my editor. I think they're watching him." He swore quietly in Italian. "Pack a bag now." "I can't." "Don't argue. I'm sending someone." "Luca." The line went dead. 10 minutes later, a black SUV stopped in front of my building. A man in a suit stepped out, phone in hand. "Miss Hill." I nodded. "Mr. Morty said you're coming with us." I should have refused. But fear overrode reason. For the first time, I realized Luca hadn't exaggerated anything. His world didn't play by rules. They drove me to the outskirts of the city, a quiet estate surrounded by trees. Luca was waiting at the gate. He opened my door before the car stopped completely. "You shouldn't have stayed home alone." I got out shaking. I didn't ask for an escort. "No, but you needed one." I followed him inside. The place was beautiful, too calm for the panic in my chest. "Why do they want me quiet?" I asked finally. He looked at me for a long time before answering. "Because they think you know more than you do." "Do I?" His silence said yes. I turned away, trying to steady my breathing. "You could end this. Tell me everything." "It wouldn't save you," he said quietly. "It would only paint a target brighter." "I can't live like this, Luca." He stepped closer. "Then let me protect you until this blows over." "You think I can just hide while people get hurt?" "I think," he said softly, "you don't understand how dangerous you've become just by asking questions." His voice wasn't cruel. It was heavy, almost pleading. And then he added something that made my heart twist. "I don't want to lose you before you even know what you mean to me." That night, the estate was silent, too silent. I couldn't sleep. Every creak made me sit up. Around midnight, I went downstairs for water and saw shadows moving outside the window. Before I could react, Luca appeared, gun in hand, motioning me back without a word. The next seconds blurred. Shouts, running feet, the crash of glass. Then silence again. When it was over, he turned to me, eyes fierce. "They found you." My voice shook. "Who?" He didn't answer. He just pulled me into his arms for the first time, holding me like the world had just ended. For once, I didn't fight it. I didn't know how long he held me that night. Maybe seconds, maybe minutes. But for the first time since I'd met him, I could feel his heartbeat racing, fast, heavy, real. Luca Morty, the man everyone whispered about, was scared. Not of what had just happened, but for me. When he finally pulled back, his voice was steady again, but his eyes weren't. "You're not leaving this place for a while," he said. "I can't just disappear. You already have. As far as the city's concerned, you're off the map, safer that way. I'm not a secret, Luca." He looked at me then, really looked, and something flickered in his gaze that made my stomach twist. "No," he said softly, "you're not. That's why I have to keep you alive." He left the room before I could answer, barking orders in Italian to someone outside. I sat down on the edge of the couch, shaking. Somewhere out there, someone had just tried to break in for me. Because of him. Because of the story I never finished writing. I wanted to cry, to scream, to run. But instead, I just sat there, staring at the shadows on the floor until the adrenaline started to fade. The next morning, sunlight cut across the wooden floors, touching everything except the part of the room where I sat curled up. When I finally opened my eyes, I realized I wasn't alone. A woman in her 30s stood by the table, arranging breakfast. Her movements were quiet, efficient. She wore black like everyone else in Luca's world. "Good morning, Miss Hill," she said with a faint accent. "I'm Sophia. Mr. Morty asked me to look after you." "Look after me," I repeated. "That's one way to say it." Her expression didn't change. "You'll find he means well, even if his ways are unconventional." Unconventional. He keeps people locked away like evidence. "Or protects them like family," she said softly. That word, family, carried weight here. I wasn't sure if it meant safety or ownership. Sophia nodded toward the plate. "Eat. You'll need your strength. Mr. Morty has work to do today, but he'll check on you later." When she left, I sat in the quiet again. The place was too beautiful for what it represented. Tall windows, soft rugs, elegant furniture, like a painting that forgot it was hiding something ugly behind it. I pushed the food away untouched. Hours passed. I wandered through the house like a ghost, trying to piece together who this man really was. In one room, I found bookshelves lined with leather-bound volumes, history, politics, economics. In another, an entire wall of photographs. Some were landscapes. Some were people I didn't recognize. But one stopped me cold. It was Luca. Younger in uniform, standing beside a man who looked older, stronger, the same gray eyes, the same quiet command. A name was written under the frame, Alessandro Morty. His father. I touched the glass lightly. "What kind of world did you grow up in, Luca?" I whispered. "Curious." I spun around. He was standing at the door, hands in his pockets, watching me. I swallowed hard. "You scared me." "You scare easily now," he said quietly. "I wonder why," I shot back. "Maybe because someone tried to break into my room last night." His jaw tightened. "They won't again." "How can you be sure?" He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Because the men responsible won't see tomorrow." I froze. "You mean?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to. "This is exactly what I meant," I said. "You solve everything with power." "I solve it with finality," he corrected. "You think the police can protect you. They take orders from men who take money from mine." I stared at him, speechless. It wasn't arrogance. It was truth, heavy and terrifying. He studied my face. "Do you hate me now?" "I don't even know what you are," I whispered. He looked down for a moment, then back up. "That makes two of us." For a second, something raw passed between us, the kind of honesty that shouldn't exist between two people on opposite sides of the law. Then he broke the silence. "You're safe here. That's what matters." He turned to leave, but I called after him. "Luca." He stopped in the doorway. "I'm a journalist. I can't just sit here doing nothing." He hesitated, then with that same unreadable calm said, "Then write, just don't publish, not yet." That night, I sat by the window with my laptop open, typing words I knew I'd never send. Day 1 under protection. The man who calls himself my savior might be the most dangerous person I've ever met, but somehow, when he's near, I feel safe, and I hate that I do. I closed the file quickly when I heard footsteps. Luca leaned against the doorway. Couldn't sleep. I shook my head. You. He smiled faintly. Men like me don't sleep much. He came closer, stopping a few feet away. The air changed, heavier, charged. You shouldn't be afraid here, he said. I'm not afraid of this place, I murmured. I'm afraid of you. He exhaled slowly, like he'd been expecting that. Then softly, good, fear keeps you alive. That's not comforting. It's not meant to be. We stared at each other in silence until I finally looked away. He took a step back, almost reluctantly. Get some rest, Emma, he said, turning toward the door. Tomorrow you'll see how this world really works. Morning brought fog and tension. Luca was already waiting in the courtyard when I stepped outside. He wore dark sunglasses and a black coat, effortless authority in motion. Where are we going? I asked. He opened the car door, to see what power looks like. I climbed in, and the car pulled onto the road. He didn't speak for the first 10 minutes, just stared ahead. Finally, he said, You think I'm a criminal, maybe I am, but there are rules in my world, lines, codes. Break them and people die. Respect them and everyone eats. That's not justice, Luca. That's survival. He gave a small, humorless laugh. And what's the difference in your city? Your editor sells stories to sponsors. Your politicians sell promises to whoever bids higher. Everyone survives their own way. I didn't answer, because deep down I knew he wasn't wrong. We stopped outside a large building, elegant, polished, with guards at every door. This is one of my companies, he said. Construction, real estate, logistics. On paper, it's clean. And off paper. He turned to me. Don't ask questions you're not ready to print. Inside, men greeted him with quiet respect. No one spoke unless he did. He moved through the halls like he owned not just the space, but the air itself. And yet, when he looked back at me, there was a softness, fleeting but real. After the tour, we stopped by the river. He leaned against the railing, looking out at the skyline. I built all this, he said quietly. Every bridge, every deal, every risk, but you look at me like I'm just the villain in your story. Because I don't know how else to see you, I whispered. He turned toward me then, close enough that I could smell the faint scent of his cologne. You'll figure it out, he said softly. Just don't do it too late. That night, after dinner, we sat outside near the garden lights. For once, the air felt calm. I asked him something I'd been afraid to say. Why me, Luca? You could have any woman, any ally. Why bother protecting a reporter who could ruin you? He took a long breath, his eyes distant. Because the night you walked into that gala, I saw something I hadn't seen in years. What? Someone who wasn't afraid to ask for what she wanted. I asked you to pretend to be my boyfriend. That's hardly bravery. He smiled slightly. It was to me. You looked at a stranger and expected honesty. No one does that in my world. I didn't know what to say. Then he added, and maybe, because I wanted to see what my life would have been if I'd met you before all this. His words lodged deep in my chest, heavy and impossible. We sat there in silence, the night humming softly around us. For the first time, I saw him not as a shadow or a headline, but as a man carrying a lifetime of choices he couldn't undo. He looked over at me, and the tension that had been building for days shifted into something quiet, fragile, and new. I knew I should move. But I didn't. He reached out slowly, brushing a strand of hair from my face, his fingers lingering for just a second too long. Don't look at me like that, he murmured. How? Like you're trying to find something worth saving. His words made my heart ache. Maybe I already did, I whispered. He froze, and for the first time, Luca Morty looked lost. He stood suddenly, turning away, his voice rough. You should rest. Luca. Please. That single word, please, sounded like surrender. I watched him walk away into the darkness, the outline of a man both powerful and broken. And I realized something terrifying. The more I learned about him, the less I wanted to expose him. But secrets don't stay buried. And love, in his world, was just another weapon waiting to be used. I woke up to the smell of smoke. Not the choking kind, just the faint, burnt wood scent that clung to the curtains and my hair. For a second, I didn't remember where I was. The room wasn't mine. The bed was too wide, the walls too bare. Then it hit me, Luca's estate. The attack, the shouting, the look in his eyes when he pulled me out of the line of fire. I sat up quickly, heart racing. The sunlight pushed through the blinds in weak golden lines, touching the dark wooden floor. Somewhere downstairs, I heard voices, men talking quietly, footsteps moving in careful rhythm. My phone was gone. My clothes had been folded neatly on a chair. A soft knock broke the silence. "Miss Hill." It was a woman's voice, polite, distant. "Yes." The door opened slightly, and a woman in a dark uniform stepped in. She looked like staff, calm, composed, with that professional kindness that didn't invite conversation. "Mr. Morty asked me to bring you breakfast." "Thank you," I said. My throat was dry. She wheeled in a tray, coffee, toast, eggs, and fresh fruit. It looked like a hotel meal, too perfect for a morning after fear. "Where is he?" I asked. "In the West Wing on a call," she replied softly. "He asked that you rest. He'll see you soon." She left without another word. I looked at the tray, my stomach twisted. I hadn't eaten properly in 2 days, but the thought of food felt foreign. Instead, I poured the coffee and tried to focus. This is insane, I told myself. 1 week ago, I was chasing a story about corporate corruption. Now I was hiding in a mafia boss's mansion, the same man I once thought was just a quiet stranger at a cafe. I wrapped my hands around the mug, needing the heat to feel something real. When the door opened again, I didn't look up right away. But I felt him before I saw him. The room seemed to shrink, the air thicker somehow. "You should eat," he said. His voice was lower than usual, rougher, maybe from shouting the night before. I turned. He looked different in daylight. The shadows that usually hid half his face were gone, replaced by bruised circles under his eyes. His shirt sleeves were rolled up, veins visible on his forearms, gun holster half hidden under the fabric. "You didn't sleep either," I said quietly. "I couldn't. Because of me." His eyes met mine. "Because someone tried to kill you under my roof." I blinked. "You think it was meant for me?" "I don't think," he said. "I know." He came closer, stopping just a few feet away. "I've dealt with people like them for years. They don't miss targets. They send a message." "A message?" He nodded once. "You're digging into names that were supposed to stay buried." My heart sank. "Luca, if you just told me the truth from the beginning, maybe." "Maybe you wouldn't have walked into this alone," he interrupted. His tone wasn't angry, just weary. "But I wasn't ready to lose you yet." I stared at him, words caught in my throat. "Lose me." "You think I don't know how this looks," he said, voice low. "I've tried to stay away from normal people, from good people. But then you walked in and made me pretend to be something I'm not, and I liked it, too much." His hand moved, almost as if to touch my cheek, but he stopped himself. "That's why you're still alive," he added quietly. The next few days blurred together. I wasn't allowed to leave the estate. "For my safety," Luca said. Guards patrolled outside. Every window had bulletproof glass, every door locked from a central panel. I tried writing, just to stay sane, but my laptop was disconnected from the internet. When I asked for a phone, one of Luca's men simply said, "Mr. Morty prefers no contact for now." So I was trapped. A gilded cage, filled with silence. I spent hours looking out the window, wondering if anyone at the newspaper was worried. Then I remembered the photo, my editor and his wife, and realized no one would risk it. I wasn't a journalist anymore. I was leverage. Every night, I heard Luca's voice somewhere in the house, giving orders, making calls in Italian. He never raised his voice, but something about his tone made grown men sound afraid. Sometimes, when I couldn't sleep, I'd wander to the balcony and see him outside, smoking under the moonlight. He always looked up, as if he could feel my gaze. And I'd step back, pretending I hadn't been watching. On the fourth night, I snapped. He came to check on me, same calm face, same unreadable eyes. I didn't wait for him to speak. "This isn't protection anymore," I said. "It's prison." "You're alive," he replied. "That's not the same thing." He sighed, stepping closer. "You think I enjoy keeping you here. Every time you walk out that door, there's a chance someone will take you away from me." "You don't own me, Luca," I said. His jaw tightened. "Maybe not, but I'm the only one keeping you breathing." The silence after that was heavy. I could feel my pulse in my neck. He exhaled slowly, eyes softening. "Emma, I don't want this to feel like a cage, Then tell me the truth," I said. "No more half answers." He looked at me for a long moment, and then, finally, he nodded. "Fine," he said. "You want the truth, you'll get it. But after that, you'll never look at me the same way again." We went to his study, the one room I'd never been allowed to enter. It was dim, lined with old books and a massive desk. Behind it, a map of the city was pinned to the wall, covered in red markings and notes. He poured himself a drink before he spoke. "I wasn't always this," he began. "Once I was just a name on someone else's payroll, a soldier." "In the Mafia?" I asked. He didn't deny it. "Call it what you want. My father was in the business. I tried to get out. They killed him for it. I took his place because I had no choice." My throat felt tight. "And now you run it." "I control it," he said. "Running it would mean I still believe in it." I frowned. "You do?" "No," he said quietly. "But walking away isn't simple. You can't just retire from blood money." He looked up at me. "That's why I didn't want you to know. You see this life, you see me, and suddenly I'm the villain." "Luca." He came closer, gaze fixed on me. "But you need to understand the world you write about, the one full of corruption and crime. It's built on people like me. You expose me, it won't change anything. It'll only get you killed." I stared at him, torn between fear and sympathy. Because beneath the darkness, there was something real, a man who wanted out but couldn't find a door. He reached out then, fingertips brushing my wrist. "You still want to run?" he asked. "I should," I whispered. "But you won't." I didn't answer, because he was right. It happened without warning. He stepped closer, close enough that I could feel his breath, smell the faint smoke and whiskey on his skin. "I should let you go," he murmured, "but every time I think about it, I can't." His hand slid to the back of my neck, gentle but possessive. "Say no," he whispered. I couldn't. So he kissed me, slow at first, careful, as if waiting for me to pull away. When I didn't, the kiss deepened. It wasn't soft or tender. It was desperate, claiming, full of everything we'd been denying for days. When he finally broke it, both of us were breathing hard. "This is wrong," I said. "I've built my life on wrong," he murmured. "But you make it feel like the only thing worth protecting." I didn't know if it was fear or desire, but I didn't move when he pulled me close again. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt safe, in the arms of the man who caused it. He left me that night with one promise. "I'll keep you safe, no matter what it costs." But as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, I realized what scared me most wasn't his promise. It was that I believed him. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. For a long time, I just lay there, watching how the pale light slowly filled the room. Everything was quiet, too quiet. Somewhere beyond the windows, I heard birds, and for a brief second, I forgot I was still trapped. The memory of last night hit like a wave. The study, the map, Luca's confession, and the kiss. My heart thudded. I touched my lips as if the feeling might still be there. It was reckless, impossible, wrong, but it had been real. And that was the most terrifying part. I got out of bed and opened the curtains. The estate stretched before me like a different world, fountains, trimmed gardens, guards moving in the distance. It didn't feel like a home. It felt like a fortress. I didn't hear him enter the room until he spoke. "You didn't sleep." I turned sharply. He stood in the doorway, shirt half unbuttoned, sleeves rolled up, his holster still visible. The morning light caught the edges of his hair, making him look more human than usual. "Neither did you," I said. He smiled faintly. "Touché." There was a pause, heavy, charged. "I'm having breakfast outside," he said finally. "Join me." I hesitated, then nodded. The garden was still wet with dew. Someone had set a small table under the terrace awning, white cloth, silver cutlery, 2 cups of coffee steaming in the morning chill. For a moment, it looked painfully normal. He gestured for me to sit, and I did, though my hands were trembling slightly. "Any dreams?" he asked. "None I'd admit to," I said. That made him smirk. Fair enough. He took a sip of his coffee, then set it down carefully. "I owe you honesty. You deserve that much." I looked at him warily. "You've already told me more than most people ever know about you." "Not enough," he said. "You know my world, not what it's done to me." He leaned back, gaze distant. "When I was 22, I tried to walk away. I took my mother and little brother to Spain, changed our names, but they found us. Killed her first. Used him as leverage to drag me back." My stomach tightened. "Your brother?" "He's alive," Luca said quietly. "Barely, but alive. They keep him close just in case I forget where my loyalties lie." I stared at him. "You're doing all this for him." He didn't answer directly. "Everyone has a reason to stay in hell, Emma. Mine just happens to have my blood." There was a rawness in his voice I hadn't heard before, something fragile beneath the armor. "I'm sorry," I whispered. He gave a short, bitter laugh. "Don't be. Pity is worse than a bullet." "I wasn't pitying you," I said. "I was understanding you." That made him pause. His eyes softened. "That's even more dangerous." After breakfast, Luca left for business. He didn't say what kind, only that it would take a few hours. I stayed behind, restless. The estate was too big, too silent. Every hallway looked the same, polished marble floors, dark doors, expensive art. Curiosity got the better of me. I wandered through the West Wing, where most of the staff rarely went. I told myself I wasn't snooping, just trying to understand the man I was supposed to trust. That's when I found the room. It was at the end of the hall, behind a door with a digital lock. Normally, that would have stopped me, but the door wasn't fully latched. Someone had left it open by mistake. Inside was a small, dimly lit space filled with screens and files. Surveillance footage flickered, streets, restaurants, even what looked like my own apartment building. My chest tightened. He'd been watching me. I stepped closer, heart pounding. On one of the screens, I saw myself, a recording from weeks ago, in the cafe where we first met. I was smiling awkwardly, waving to a friend, completely unaware of the man who sat in the far corner, pretending to read. Luca. It wasn't coincidence. He'd seen me long before that day. A voice behind me made me freeze. "Curiosity really could kill you, you know." I spun around. It was Luca. It was the tall man I'd seen with him before, the one who looked like a bodyguard. His expression was unreadable. I was just looking where you shouldn't," he finished. "Mr. Morty won't like that." I swallowed hard. "Who are you?" He smiled faintly. "You can call me Mateo. Everyone does." He walked past me, switched off the monitors one by one. "You shouldn't be here. He doesn't like people touching his ghosts." "What does that mean?" I asked. He turned back, eyes sharper now. "It means he's not the man you think he is, Miss Hill. And the more you learn, the more dangerous it gets for both of you." Before I could reply, he stepped out, leaving me in silence and a heartbeat that wouldn't calm down. When Luca came back that evening, I was waiting for him in the main hall. He stopped when he saw my face. "What happened?" I crossed my arms. "You tell me." He frowned. "Emma." I found your surveillance room, I said flatly. You've been watching me for how long? For a moment, he didn't speak. His eyes darkened, jaw tightening. Then he sighed. Since before the cafe. I felt my stomach drop. So none of it was random. You didn't just happen to be there. I was there to protect you, he said. Protect me from what? I demanded. From the people who wanted to use you, he snapped. You started writing about Morty Holdings. Do you think that went unnoticed? You were a target before you even met me. I stared at him, speechless. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. They would have killed you, Emma. I just got there first. So what was I to you then? I asked. A mission, a liability. He shook his head. No, you were the one thing that made me forget what I am. His tone broke something inside me. I wanted to scream, to hit him, to run, but instead I just whispered, You lied to me. Yes, he said quietly, because if I told you the truth, you would have run, and I couldn't let that happen. That night, a storm rolled in thunder shaking the windows, rain hammering against the glass. I couldn't sleep. I sat in the dark, hugging my knees, listening to the storm's rage outside and my own chaos inside. At some point, I heard the door creak open. Emma. His voice was softer than the thunder, roughened by something I couldn't name. I can't do this anymore, I said before he could speak. You control everything, even me. He walked closer, water dripping from his coat. You think I want to control you? I'm trying to keep you alive. By caging me. He stopped just a few steps away. By keeping you where bullets can't find you. I stood up, shaking. Maybe I'd rather risk a bullet than live like this. He closed the distance in 2 strides, his hand catching my wrist. Don't say that, he said sharply. Don't you dare. Let me go, Luca. But he didn't. His grip was strong, trembling slightly. His eyes burned, not with anger but desperation. You don't understand, he said. When I think of you out there alone, I can't breathe. I can't think. His voice cracked, just a little, and it broke my defenses completely. He let go suddenly, stepping back like he'd just realized what he was doing. I'm sorry, he muttered. You make me forget who I'm supposed to be. Maybe that's a good thing, I said quietly. He looked at me, really looked, as if the world outside the storm didn't exist. Then he whispered, You'll never be safe with me, Emma, but I swear you'll never be safer anywhere else. The next morning, things changed. The staff moved differently, tension in every step. When I found Matteo in the hallway, he didn't stop walking. What's going on? I asked. Someone's talking, he said. Word is the other families know you're here. My stomach turned cold. They're coming. Maybe, maybe not, but Luca's preparing for it. I went looking for him, found him in the study, talking rapidly into his phone in Italian. When he saw me, he ended the call immediately. What's happening? I asked. He hesitated, then said, Someone betrayed me. Because of me. His silence was answer enough. Then let me go, I said. If I leave, they won't have a reason. He shook his head violently. No, they'll use you to find me. You think I'll let that happen? Luca. He walked up, grabbed my face in both hands, forcing me to look at him. His eyes burned like fire. You're mine to protect, he said, voice low and dangerous, until I say otherwise. I should have been scared. But all I could feel was my heart breaking. Because despite everything, the lies, the control, the danger, a part of me still believed him. It began quietly, the kind of quiet that means trouble. Luca stopped taking meals with me. The phone in the hallway stopped ringing. Even the guards seemed fewer. For 2 days, I barely saw him. Every time I asked Matteo what was going on, he'd just say, Mr. Morty is handling something important. But his tone told me it wasn't just business. The house felt colder, heavier. And then, one night, I heard the first explosion. The floor trembled. Somewhere outside, glass shattered. I ran to the window and saw flashes in the distance, gunfire near the eastern wall. I didn't think, I just ran. Emma, Matteo's voice shouted behind me, but I ignored it. I needed to find Luca. By the time I reached the main hall, chaos had erupted, men shouting, guns drawn, the smell of smoke filling the air. "Stay back," someone yelled, but I kept moving until a strong arm yanked me aside. It was Luca. His eyes were wild, his shirt streaked with dust and blood. "What are you doing out here?" he shouted over the noise. I heard. He cut me off. "You should have stayed upstairs." Another gunshot cracked through the hall, and he pulled me behind a marble column, shielding me with his body. My heart pounded against his chest. I could feel every muscle in him tense, his breath ragged. "Who are they?" I asked. He didn't answer, just fired twice into the darkness. A man dropped across the hall. "The Ferraro family," he muttered. "They found out about you." I froze. "Because of me." He turned, grabbing my face in both hands. "This isn't your fault. You didn't choose this." His voice was steady, but his eyes were on fire. "Matteo," he shouted, "get her to the safe room." "No," I said, "I'm not leaving you." "You don't have a choice." His men surrounded me, pulling me toward the west wing even as I fought to stay. The last thing I saw before they dragged me away was Luca, gun in hand, walking straight into the chaos without hesitation. The safe room wasn't what I expected. It wasn't luxurious, just a narrow steel chamber under the estate, lit by one flickering light. Matteo slammed the door shut and turned to me. "You stay here until it's over. Do not open that door unless Luca himself tells you." "What ifs?" "Don't finish that sentence," he said sharply. "He'll handle it." I sank to the floor, shaking. For the first time, I realized how little control I had. Everything, my life, my freedom, even my survival, depended on a man whose world was built on violence. Hours passed. The gunfire stopped eventually, replaced by silence, the kind that made your ears ring. Then footsteps. I jumped to my feet. "Luca." The lock clicked. The door swung open slowly. But it was Luca. It was a stranger. Tall, dark coat, blood on his sleeve. His grin was slow, cruel. "Well," he said, voice smooth. "So the rumors were true. The journalist is real." I backed away until my shoulders hit the wall. "Who are you?" He smiled wider. "Someone who's been looking for you. My boss has been quite eager to meet the woman who made Luca Morty lose his mind." "Where, Luca?" I demanded. "Alive for now," he said, "but not for long if you keep screaming." He stepped closer, pulling a gun from his belt. "Don't!" My voice shook, but I forced the word out. He tilted his head. "You really think he can save you? Men like him don't survive love stories." "Then you don't know him," I said. He laughed softly. "Oh, I know him. I used to work for him." My heart stopped. "You're—" "Betrayal hurts, doesn't it?" he said. "He taught me everything. Then he left me for dead. I'm just returning the favor." He reached for me, but before he could touch me, a single gunshot split the air. The man froze, eyes wide, then collapsed. Behind him stood Luca. He was bleeding from a cut across his temple, his shirt half torn, his eyes dark with fury. He lowered the gun slowly, breathing hard. "You okay?" he asked, voice rough. I nodded shakily. "He said he worked for you." Luca's jaw tightened. "He did, until he betrayed me." I glanced at the body, then back at him. "So this is how it ends, always someone else's revenge." He looked at me, something breaking behind his expression. "This is the only way it ever ends, Emma. You just don't see it from the outside." He stepped closer, gently brushing his thumb across my cheek, leaving a streak of blood. "I told you I'd keep you safe," he said quietly, "even if it means burning everything else down." I wanted to say something, to stop him, to make him see reason, but before I could, Matteo's voice echoed from the corridor. "They're retreating. The grounds are clear." Luca nodded once, still looking at me. "Get her to the car," he told Matteo. "We're leaving." "Where?" "Somewhere no one will find us." We left before dawn. The estate burned behind us, smoke rising in the distance as Matteo drove through the fog. I sat beside Luca in silence. His hand was wrapped in a blood-soaked bandage. He didn't flinch, didn't speak. Finally, I whispered, "You saved me again." He looked out the window. "I always will." "That's not living, Luca. That's surviving." He turned his head slightly, eyes tired. "It's the only thing I know how to do." The car bumped along the narrow road, headlights slicing through the mist. "Where are we going?" I asked. "There's a house by the coast," he said. "No one knows it exists. We'll stay there until things cool down." And then, he didn't answer. By the time we arrived, the sun was rising again, pale pink light spilling over the cliffs. The house was small, weathered, hidden among rocks. It looked almost peaceful, as if the violence of the city couldn't reach this far. Luca carried me inside, even though I insisted I could walk. "You've been through enough," he said simply. He laid me down on the couch, brushed a strand of hair from my face, and for a long time, neither of us spoke. Finally, I whispered, "Why do you keep risking yourself for me?" He smiled faintly. "Because when you walked into that cafe, you didn't see a monster. You looked at me like I was a man. No one's done that in years." He looked away then, his jaw tightening. "I don't know how to be that man, but I'm trying." My chest ached. "Then stop running from who you want to be." He met my eyes again, tired, dangerous, beautiful. "You make it sound easy," he said softly. "It's not," I replied, "but maybe it's worth trying for once." He leaned forward, pressing his forehead to mine. His voice was barely a whisper. "You make me believe in things I stopped believing in." Later that night, while he slept in the chair beside me, I picked up his phone from the table. It was unlocked. I shouldn't have looked, but curiosity was stronger than fear. In his messages, I found something that froze my blood. A text thread from Matteo. She's not the only leak. I told them where to find the safe room." You what?" I did what I had to. You're too blind to see she's your weakness." The message was time-stamped, just hours before the attack. My hand shook. Matteo, the man who swore loyalty to him, the one who saved me. He was the traitor. I looked up at Luca, asleep but restless. He had no idea. For a moment, I thought about waking him, but then another thought hit me. If Matteo betrayed him once, he could again. And if Luca found out now, in this state, he'd kill him instantly. And something deep inside me whispered that killing was what Luca needed anymore. He needed saving. I slipped out of the room quietly, my heart pounding. The night air smelled like salt and rain. I could see Matteo's car parked outside, his shadow near the cliff, phone to his ear. It was time someone turned the tables. The sea wind was cold that night, sharp, almost metallic, like it carried the scent of the bullets still buried in my memory. I pulled Luca's jacket tighter around me as I stepped outside, the wooden porch creaking under my weight. Matteo stood by the edge of the cliff, his phone glowing faintly in the darkness. He didn't notice me at first. He was speaking softly, urgently, the wind stealing half his words. "Yes, I know where they are. No, he doesn't suspect a thing." My heart pounded. It was real. He was still working against Luca. For a moment, I considered turning back, pretending I never heard. But then Luca's face flashed in my mind, tired and bruised, sleeping restlessly because he trusted the wrong man. I couldn't let that go. "Who are you talking to, Matteo?" He froze. Slowly, he turned around. His expression shifted from surprise to annoyance to something darker. "Emma," he said, pocketing the phone, "you shouldn't be out here." "Answer me." He sighed. "You don't understand what's happening." "Then explain it to me," I said, stepping closer. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you betrayed the man who's kept you alive for years." He didn't flinch. I did what I had to do. "You helped them attack us." His jaw tightened. "I warned him, Emma. I told him you were a distraction. He didn't listen. He's changed, and not in a way this life allows." I felt my stomach twist. So you decided to destroy him. I decided to save him, Matteo said bitterly. From himself, from you. By selling him out to his enemies. He looked away, his voice dropping. You wouldn't understand. Love makes people weak in our world. Luca used to rule through fear. Now he hesitates. He protects you instead of himself. He's not the same man anymore. Maybe that's the point, I said fiercely. Maybe he doesn't want to be. He shook his head. You'll get him killed. I took another step closer, the wind whipping my hair across my face. No, Matteo, you will. He pulled his gun before I could blink. I didn't want it to come to this, he said quietly. But you don't belong here, Emma. You never did. My breath caught in my throat. You're not going to shoot me. He didn't lower the weapon. You're right. I don't want to. But if it means ending this madness before it kills him, then maybe it's mercy. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. You think killing me will save him. You're wrong. He'll never forgive you. I don't need his forgiveness, Matteo said. I just need him alive. For a long, tense moment, neither of us moved. The ocean roared below us like it wanted to swallow everything whole. Then I heard the click of another gun behind us. Drop it, Luca's voice said, cold, deadly calm. Matteo froze. He was standing in the doorway, gun steady, eyes burning like wildfire. He must have woken up and followed me. Boss, Matteo began. Don't, Luca snapped. Don't you dare call me that. Matteo lowered the gun slowly, but his expression didn't change. I did what I thought was right. What you thought was right. Luca's voice trembled with restrained fury. You gave them our location. You nearly got her killed. I was trying to save you. By betraying me. Matteo's eyes glistened. You weren't thinking straight. She's making you soft, Luca. You used to see the bigger picture. Now you only see her. Luca's jaw tightened. You're right, he said quietly. I do only see her, because she's the only thing in this world that isn't rotten. Matteo shook his head. That's exactly why she has to go. He reached for his gun again, but Luca was faster. One shot. Echoing across the cliffs. Matteo stumbled back, clutching his side, eyes wide in disbelief. He fell to his knees, then to the ground. I gasped, Luca. He stood there, unmoving, his gun still raised, his face pale. I warned him, Luca whispered. I told him what would happen if he touched you. I ran to Matteo's side, pressing my hands against the wound. Don't move. He coughed, blood spilling onto the rocks. You shouldn't have come. Stop talking, I said desperately. You'll be okay. He gave a faint, broken laugh. You sound like him. Luca stood a few steps away, silent, his gun lowered now. I could see the war inside him, fury and grief twisting together. Matteo's voice was fatting. He was my brother, you know, not by blood, but close enough. We built this life together. I know, I whispered. He looked past me, toward Luca. She'll destroy you, just like I said. Luca's expression didn't change. Maybe, he said softly, but she's the only thing worth being destroyed for. Matteo's breath hitched once more, then went still. The ocean kept roaring, indifferent to the life it had just witnessed end. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Luca finally turned away. Get inside. Luca. Now. His voice was sharp, final, but I didn't move. He was your friend, I said quietly. He was my brother, Luca replied, and I buried him the moment he sold me out. He walked past me toward the edge of the cliff, staring out at the horizon. The gun hung loosely at his side. Do you hate me for what I've done? He asked after a long silence. I stepped closer. No, but I hate what this world keeps making you do. He laughed bitterly. You think I wanted this? I used to believe I could control everything until you walked into my life and made me realize how small I really am. I reached out, touching his arm gently. Then let it go, walk away from all of this. He turned to me, eyes glistening. And go where, Emma? You think I can just disappear, that the blood on my hands will wash off if I hide long enough? I swallowed hard. You can try. He looked at me for a long moment. Then suddenly, he pulled me into his arms. His heartbeat was rough and desperate beneath my ear. "I can't lose you," he whispered. "Not after everything." "You won't," I said softly. "But if you keep living like this, you'll lose yourself." He didn't answer, just held me tighter, as if he could anchor himself to me and the rest of the world would disappear. When morning came, Luca buried Matteo by the cliff. He didn't speak during the burial, didn't say a prayer or a word, just silence and sea breeze. I watched from a distance, tears burning behind my eyes. He stood over the grave for a long time, head bowed, then finally walked back to me. "It's done," he said simply. "What now?" I asked. He looked toward the horizon, eyes unreadable. "Now we disappear." "Disappear where?" "Anywhere they can't find us. We'll build something new." I nodded slowly. "Together." He hesitated, then finally said, "If you'll still have me." I reached for his hand. "Always." But deep inside, I knew something had changed. The man standing before me wasn't just the mafia boss I once feared or the lover I'd come to know. He was both, and the balance between them was starting to break. That night, as we drove away from the coast, I looked back one last time. The sea shimmered under the moonlight, calm and endless, as if mocking the chaos we'd leave behind. I didn't know where we were going. I didn't know if love could survive a life like his. But I knew this much. Whatever waited for us next would decide everything. The city we escaped to didn't have a name that mattered. It was one of those coastal places tourists passed through without remembering. Quiet streets, cracked sidewalks, a diner that always smelled like burnt coffee. It was perfect. At least, that's what I told myself. Luca rented a small house near the ocean, nothing like his glass and marble penthouse back in Chicago. Just wooden floors, a tiny porch, and the steady hum of waves outside our window. For the first time in months, we could breathe. He spent mornings fixing things, the door hinge, the leaky faucet, the fence out back. I spent mine writing, trying to rebuild my career under a new name. The world thought Emma Hill had vanished, and for now, that was how it had to stay. But even as we built a quiet life, the shadows never really left. Not for him. Not for us. Some mornings, I'd find Luca standing by the window, staring at nothing. Coffee in hand, shirt sleeves rolled up, that look in his eyes, calm on the surface but stormy underneath. "Do you miss it?" I asked one day. He turned to me, brow furrowed. "Miss what?" "The life you left behind." He smiled faintly. "Do you miss your newsroom?" "Sometimes," I admitted, "but I don't miss the noise." "Same answer," he said. We both laughed softly, but I could tell he was lying. The mafia wasn't a job. It was a system that didn't let go. He might have walked away, but the ghosts followed. That evening, we had dinner on the porch. The air smelled of salt and fried onions. The sun was dipping below the horizon, casting everything in gold. "This is almost normal," I said, smiling. He leaned back in his chair, watching me. "Almost. What's missing?" He tilted his head slightly, that small smirk tugging at his lips. "A ring, maybe." I froze, fork halfway to my mouth. "What?" He shrugged casually, though I could see the tension beneath his ease. "One day, I mean." "Luca." He reached across the table and took my hand. "I'm not good at pretending anymore, Emma. Not with you. You've seen what I am. If you stay, I want it to mean something." My heart twisted. "You don't have to prove anything to me." "I'm not trying to prove. I'm trying to build." His eyes were serious, steady. And for a moment, the world felt quiet, like maybe we really could have peace. Then his phone buzzed. He ignored it at first, but it buzzed again. Then again. Finally, he sighed and picked it up. His expression changed instantly, his jaw tightening, his knuckles going white around the phone. "Who is it?" I asked. He didn't answer, just stared at the screen. "Luca." He finally looked up. "Someone found us." The words made my chest tighten. "Are you sure?" He turned the screen toward me. A message, just one sentence. You can hide the girl, but not forever. No name, no number, just that line. Is it them? I whispered. Maybe, he said. Maybe it's someone new. What do we do? He stood, already scanning the windows, his calm slipping into command. We stay quiet, we stay ready. For days, nothing happened. But the air changed, heavier, colder, like the silence before a storm. I started noticing small things. A car parked too long across the street, a light flickering near the fence, a figure walking past at midnight. Luca, I said one night, I think they're watching. I know. He'd already armed the house, cameras, locks, reinforced doors, but I could tell he was restless. The quiet was too fragile. One night, I woke up to the sound of voices outside. Luca was gone from the bed. I grabbed my phone and crept downstairs, heart pounding. Through the front window, I saw him standing near the fence, talking to two men in black jackets. His stance was rigid, his tone sharp. Then one of the men lunged. Before I could scream, Luca moved faster than I'd ever seen. A punch, a struggle, a gunshot. The men fled into the darkness. I rushed out, barefoot, the gravel biting into my skin. Luca. He turned, breathless, gripping his arm. Blood seeped through his sleeve. I'm fine, he said through clenched teeth. You're not fine. Get inside, he barked. I froze at his tone, not anger but pure fear. He wasn't protecting himself, he was protecting me. Once the bleeding stopped and his breathing steadied, he leaned back against the wall, eyes closed. They were scouts, he said quietly. Not here to kill, here to find. Find what? Us. My chest tightened. Then we have to leave. He shook his head. Running won't help. They'll keep coming until someone ends it. His voice was steady, but his hands trembled slightly. I knelt beside him. I don't want to lose this, I said softly. Not you, not us. You won't, he murmured. But I need you to trust me. If anything happens, you run. You don't wait. You don't look back. Don't say that. He cupped my face, eyes locked on mine. Promise me, Emma. Tears blurred my vision. I promise. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound made me flinch. At 3:00 a.m., I found him sitting outside again, shirtless, wrapping a new bandage around his arm. Moonlight glowed on his skin, catching the thin scar near his collarbone. You should be resting, I said softly. So should you. I stepped closer. Why didn't you tell me it was this bad? He smiled faintly. You'd worry. I already do. He looked up at me then, eyes tired but full of something deeper. You shouldn't have to live like this, Emma. I chose this. Maybe you shouldn't have. I chose you. He stood and took my hands, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make that worth something. Before I could answer, he kissed me, deep, desperate, full of every fear neither of us could say out loud. For that moment, the world outside didn't exist. There was no mafia, no danger, no past. Just us, broken, stubborn, holding on to something real. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of rain. Heavy, fast, relentless. The house felt colder than usual. Luca was gone. My heart sank. I found a note on the table, scrawled in his sharp handwriting. Don't follow me. I'll end this. Wait for me. I stared at the words until they blurred. Then I grabbed my phone, my bag, and the keys. Because waiting was never my strength. It took me 2 hours to find him. An old contact from my journalist days sent me a location, a warehouse at the edge of the docks. If Morty's still alive, he'd said, that's where you'll find him. When I got there, rain still poured, thunder echoing off the metal walls. I pushed open the side door quietly and stepped inside. There he was, standing in the center of the room, facing 3 men. I recognized one of them, Victor D'Amico, the rival boss whose name haunted every police report for years. Luca's voice was calm but cold. You've been following me long enough, Victor. Let's end this. Victor laughed. You think you can walk away from this world. You are this world, Morty. You don't retire, you die. I didn't come to negotiate, Luca said, his tone steel. I came to bury this. I froze behind a stack of crates, watching, praying he wouldn't see me. Then everything exploded. The first gunshot shattered the silence, then another, then chaos. Men shouted, metal clanged, the smell of gunpowder filled the air. I ducked down, heart hammering, but I couldn't stay hidden. Not when I saw Luca go down, hit, falling behind a pillar. Luca, I screamed, running before I could think. He turned, blood on his arm, eyes wide when he saw me. Emma, what are you doing here? I couldn't. Get out. Another bullet struck the wall near me. He grabbed me, pulling me behind cover, shielding me with his body. Why didn't you listen? He hissed, pressing his hand against the wound. Because I love you. His eyes softened, just for a second before he aimed again and fired. One man dropped, then another. Victor cursed, retreating toward the exit. This isn't over, Morty. Luca fired again. The shot echoed like thunder. Then silence. I pressed my hands to his wound, shaking. You're bleeding too much. He smiled faintly. You should see the other guy. Luca. Hey, he caught my wrist, his hand warm despite the blood. Look at me. I did. Now it's over, he said softly. Don't you dare die on me, I whispered. He laughed weakly. Not tonight. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Someone must have called the police. We have to go, I said. He nodded. Help me up. We stumbled toward the back door, leaning on each other. Rain hit our faces, washing away the blood, the fear, everything but the truth between us. That night, we didn't go home. We drove until the roads blurred, until the sky turned pale. He finally pulled over by the cliffs, the ocean stretching endless before us. You're free now, I said quietly. He looked at me, a small, tired smile on his lips. No, we are. And for the first time, I believed it. Dawn crawled across the horizon, turning the ocean silver. Luca's hands were steady on the wheel, but I could see the strain in his jaw. The bandage around his arm was soaked through again. Pull over, I said. He shook his head. We're almost there. Where, there? Someplace quiet, somewhere no one will think to look. He was fatting, shoulders slumped, skin pale, but still forcing control. I reached over, covering his hand. You don't have to keep saving me, Luca. He gave a tired smile. That's the only thing I know how to do. We stopped at a rundown motel on the edge of a small town. He booked a room under a fake name, slipped the clerk $100 for silence, and locked the door behind us. I sat him on the bed and peeled the blood-stained bandage away. The wound was angry and deep. This needs a hospital. No hospitals, he murmured. Cops will be there by now. I grabbed the first aid kit and worked in silence. The air smelled of rain and rust. When I finished, he exhaled slowly. You should leave tonight. I froze. What? There's a safe contact in Denver. He'll give you a new ID, new life. And you. He met my eyes. I'll handle what's left. No. Emma. I cut him off. I didn't survive all this to start over alone. For a moment his composure cracked. I saw pure fear behind it. Not fear of dying, but of losing me. He reached out, brushing my cheek with his thumb. You're the first good thing that's ever asked to stay. We barely slept. Around noon, a knock rattled the door. 3 sharp taps. Luca's eyes opened instantly. He raised a finger for silence and motioned me behind the wall. He drew his gun, then called, Who is it? Room service. We hadn't ordered anything. He mouthed, Stay hidden, and turned the handle. The door burst open. 2 men shoved inside. Gunfire roared through the tiny room. I ducked under the bed, hands over my ears. Luca fired twice, clean, controlled. 1 man dropped, the other ran. When the echoes faded, Luca staggered, gripping his side again. I crawled out, shaking. We have to get out of here. He nodded once, already scanning for a back exit. We tore through the rear alley, rain beginning again. Tires screeched somewhere behind us. Get in, he ordered, sliding into the driver's seat of the car we'd stolen from the lot. Bullets pinged off the metal as we sped away. Who are they? I shouted over the wind. Victor's men. He must have survived. How? You shot him? He never dies easy. The car fishtailed around a corner. In the mirror, 2 black SUVs followed. Seat belt, Luca said calmly, reloading. Now's not the time to play action hero. He gave me a sideways grin. Too late. He slammed the brakes, spun the car, and fired through the windshield. The first SUV veered off the road, smashing into a lamppost. The second kept coming. Hang on. We raced onto a coastal bridge, the same cliffs we'd left behind hours ago. The rain turned everything slick, gray, endless. Halfway across, the second SUV rammed us. Metal screamed. Emma, get down. I ducked as Luca fired out the window. The other car swerved, hit the guardrail, then regained balance. Another hit. The car spun. We slammed into the rail. The ocean yawned below. Smoke filled the air. Luca grabbed my hand. Out. We stumbled onto the bridge, drenched, coughing. The enemy SUV stopped 20 feet away. Victor stepped out, very much alive, his suit soaked but his grin intact. Did you really think you could run, Morty? Luca pushed me behind him. This ends now. It already has, Victor said, raising his gun. Time slowed. I saw Luca move, one clean, precise motion. The crack of gunfire echoed once, then twice. Victor fell. So did Luca. I dropped beside him, screaming his name. Blood spread across his chest, bright against the gray rain. Stay with me. I pressed my hands to the wound. He coughed, eyes flicking open. You're safe. Yes, don't talk. He smiled weakly. Good, then I did something right. Stop, please, don't say goodbye. He reached up, his fingers brushing my face. You remember what I told you. The night on the cliff. That you couldn't lose me. He nodded faintly. Still true. I shook my head, tears mixing with rain. You're not leaving me, do you hear me? He tried to speak, but his breath hitched. No, I whispered, gripping him harder. Not like this. Sirens echoed somewhere far off. Someone must have called them again. You'll be okay, I lied. They're coming. He managed a faint chuckle. I hate cops. Then his hand went limp. The world blurred after that. Paramedics, lights, questions I couldn't answer. They said I passed out in the ambulance, that they barely got him back. He was alive, but barely. Days blurred into hospital lights and endless waiting. When he finally woke, I was there holding his hand. His voice was rough. Still here. I laughed through tears. You sound disappointed. Relieved, he murmured. He looked weaker than I'd ever seen him, but alive, and that was enough. They'll arrest you, I said quietly. He squeezed my hand. Maybe, but they'll have to catch me first. Luca. He smiled faintly. I'm done running, Emma. Whatever happens next, I face it. 2 days later, an agent from the Organized Crime Bureau came to see him. I waited outside the room, heart pounding. When the door opened, Luca was sitting up, eyes distant. What did they want? He looked at me for a long moment. A deal. What kind of deal? My freedom, for information that buries Victor's entire network. I swallowed hard. You'll testify. He nodded. It's the only way we get out of this alive. And after? He smiled sadly. Witness protection, new names, new places, no more Morty. I exhaled, half laughing, half crying. I don't care what your name is. He reached out, fingers brushing mine. Then maybe we have a chance. A week later, they took him away. I stood in the hallway as 2 agents led him toward the elevator. He turned once, meeting my eyes. You'll find me, he said. I always do. The doors closed. For a long time, I just stood there, listening to the hum of the building. The world outside kept moving, oblivious to everything we'd fought for. I live by the ocean again. Different coast, different name. Every morning, I walk to the end of the pier with my notebook, pretending to be just another journalist chasing small stories. But I still check the mail for letters, without return addresses. One morning, I finally get one. Inside, a single photograph. A quiet beach, 2 cups of coffee on a porch railing. And beneath it, in his handwriting, "Still building." I smile, tears stinging my eyes. He's alive, he's free, and somewhere out there he's waiting. I close the notebook and whisper to the wind. "Be my boyfriend," I said once to a stranger. He became my everything. The waves sound different now. Softer, almost kind, like they've forgiven me for everything I dragged to their edge. I live in a little beach town 2 hours south of Seattle. The air smells like salt and coffee. My apartment faces the sea, and I've started leaving the curtains open so the sunlight can find me first thing every morning. The past used to terrify me. Now it just exists, like an old scar that doesn't hurt anymore. Every morning I brew 2 cups of coffee, one for me, one for him. Habit maybe, or hope. I sit by the window, open my laptop and start writing. Not crime exposés, not investigative reports. Just stories. About people, about survival, about love that refuses to die even when the world demands it should. Sometimes the words come easy, sometimes they don't. But I write anyway, because that's what he told me once. Don't stop chasing your truth, even if it hurts. The letter came exactly 6 months and 3 days after he disappeared with the agents. Plain white envelope, no return address, postmark blurred. My heart nearly stopped when I saw the handwriting. Bold, clean, familiar. Inside was the photograph, 2 mugs of coffee on a porch railing, and a note. Still building. No signature, none needed. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the porch, staring at the ocean until the sky turned violet. He was alive, out there somewhere, rebuilding a life that was never supposed to exist. A life without the violence, without the fear. I wanted to run to him, but I couldn't, not yet. If they caught him again, they'd bury him under a new name, a new world. If I got too close, I'd risk it all. So I waited, and wrote, and hoped. It was a quiet Thursday when my phone rang. Blocked number. For a second, my stomach dropped. Then I answered. "Emma." Just my name, that deep voice, quiet and certain. "Luca." "Yeah." I pressed a hand to my mouth, trying not to cry. "Where are you?" "Can't say, but I'm okay. We're okay." "Way." The word hit me like sunlight. They kept their deal. They did. Victor's people are gone, the rest scattered. I've been working construction under my real name. Sort of poetic, huh? The guy who used to destroy things now builds them. I laughed through tears. You were always poetic, just bad at admitting it. A pause. "I miss you." The words were soft, dangerous. They cracked something open in me I'd been holding shut for too long. "I miss you too," I whispered. "I can't come back yet," he said. "They're still watching, but when it's clear, I'll be here." He was quiet for a long time. Then, "You always were." The line went dead. After that call, time stretched differently. I started seeing him in small things. The way the barista smirked when handing me coffee, the rhythm of heavy boots on the pier, the soft whistle of a man walking past my window. He wasn't there. But sometimes, I felt him anyway. At night, I replayed everything in my head. The first moment at the party, when I'd walked up to a stranger and begged him to pretend to be my boyfriend. The way his eyes softened for the first time. The cliff, the fire, the rescue. Sometimes I wondered if fate laughed when she saw me, a journalist chasing truth, falling in love with the one man who lived in shadows. But love doesn't always make sense. It just is. And I'd learned something important from Luca Morty. Sometimes the right person comes disguised as every wrong choice you've ever made. 3 months after his call, my first book was published. It wasn't about the mafia. It wasn't even about me. It was about a woman who fell in love with a man she wasn't supposed to meet, and how that love made her brave enough to face herself. The title was simple: The Quiet After the Storm. The dedication read, "To the man who taught me that even in darkness, love is a kind of light." The book did well. Enough that people started calling me again, editors, producers, podcasters. They all wanted the real story. But the real story was mine and his, and some things aren't meant for headlines. It happened one evening in late summer. I was walking back from the bookstore when I saw him. At first, I thought it was a trick of the light, a tall man in a gray hoodie, standing by the rail, watching the sea. Something in my chest went still. He turned slowly. And then I knew. Luca. Older maybe, a little thinner, but those eyes, same deep storm I'd fallen into that first night. I didn't move at first. I was afraid he might vanish if I blinked. Then he smiled, just slightly. "Still writing, I see." My bag slipped off my shoulder. "Still building." He laughed softly, that rare sound that always melted my fear. "Every day." We just stood there, the world fatting around us. Finally, he stepped closer, brushed a wet strand of hair from my face, and said, "You kept your promise. You found me." "I always do." The air between us pulsed with everything we'd never said. When he pulled me into his arms, everything fell away. The months, the distance, the fear, gone. All that remained was warmth. Heartbeat against heartbeat. "You're supposed to be someone else now," I whispered against his chest. He kissed the top of my head. "Maybe I was, but I'm tired of hiding." "They'll find you. Then they'll find me with you." I looked up at him, the man who once terrified entire cities, and saw nothing but peace in his eyes. For the first time, he wasn't the mafia boss, or the fugitive, or the danger I'd run toward. He was just Luca. My Luca. We walked along the beach until the sun disappeared. No plans, no guarantees, just quiet. When we reached the porch of my apartment, he stopped, looking at the 2 mugs of coffee waiting on the railing. "You still make 2. Every morning." He smiled. "Guess I should stay for one." Later, sitting on the porch with the sea humming below us, he reached into his pocket. "Before all this started," he said, "I bought something. I was going to give it to you the night everything went to hell." He opened his palm. A simple silver ring. No diamonds, no flash, just a thin band scratched around the edges like it had survived the same storms we had. "Luca." "It's not a proposal," he said quickly. "Not yet, it's a promise." He slid it onto my finger. "For what?" I asked softly. "That I'll never disappear again. That even if the world burns, you'll always know where to find me." I leaned in, kissed him gently, and whispered, "Then here's mine, I won't stop waiting." He smiled, his forehead resting against mine. "Then we're even." Weeks passed. He found work nearby, quiet, legal, steady. Sometimes I'd catch him standing at the window before dawn, watching the sea like it was telling him secrets. He never talked about the past unless I asked, and when I did, he told the truth, the whole messy, human truth. There were scars, there always would be. But there was also laughter, coffee, a cat we named Rogue because it refused to listen to anyone. Life didn't turn perfect. It turned real. One evening, while I was editing my second book, he came up behind me, wrapped his arms around my shoulders and said, "So what's this one called?" I smiled. "Be my boyfriend." He chuckled, low and rough. "Catchy." "It's a love story," I said. He brushed his lips over my ear. "Does it end well?" "Yes," I whispered. "For once it does." Sometimes we walk by the cliffs where it all began. He still doesn't like heights, but he comes anyway. We sit at the edge, legs swinging over the sea, and he says, If someone told me back then that a journalist would save my life, I'd have laughed. I grin. If someone told me I'd fall for a mafia boss, I'd have run. And yet, here we are. The sky turns orange. The tide climbs. He takes my hand. You know what I love most about this view? What? It reminds me that even storms end. I lean against him. You're getting good at the poetic stuff. He laughs. Maybe I had a good teacher. We stay there until the sun disappears, until the first stars appear. And when he finally stands and offers me his hand, I take it, not because I need saving, but because it feels right. Because I once asked him to be my fake boyfriend to escape a mistake. And he became my real forever. I once asked him to pretend. He stayed for real. And somewhere between danger and love, we found the quiet after the storm. Thank you for watching to the end. Please remember to click the subscribe button and make sure you like this video, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Thank you.